Hey everybody, welcome back to another movie review. Hope you guys been enjoying the content channel as of late. Excuse me if I adjust my mic here. Welcome back to another review. I'm going to be doing this one a little quick just because I have food, if you could see, literally right behind me, literally right there. And I would like to have my lunch pretty soon because it's going on 3 o'clock. But just got done seeing this and was curious to see it for a little bit. Just, work and everything. Just needed to find the right time to check this out, and I finally did. That film that we're going to be discussing today is Die My Love, which was co-written and directed by Lynn Ramsey, who you guys may be familiar with films such as We Need to Talk About Kevin, which is pretty good, Ratcatcher, which I think is also good, and more recently with a film called You Were Never Really Here, starring Joaquin Phoenix, which I think is very, very good. This stars Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson, Lakeith Steinfeld, Nick Nolte, and Sissy Spake. I think that's how you say her name. And as the story goes, also based off of a novel of the same name, written back in 2012 by Ariana Harwitz. So just to lay out the groundwork. So this tells the story of a couple played by Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson as they move into a new home. And this new home, they decide to have a baby. And upon having the baby, Jennifer Lawrence's character starts to develop postpartum depression. And through that, she starts to basically descend into her own psychosis, into some form of madness, and the origins to that psychosis lead to a absurdist approach to what is frankly a depiction on being that of deprived and depressed and the relations between those two, and the outside of that inner conflict, seeing how as that relationship starts to crumble as Robert Pattinson tries to scramble and maintain this sort of relationship. So for me, Lynn Ramsey has always been an interesting case. She's never been one for specifics in terms of style. It's just she has a very stark, I guess you could say, kind of in some way startling approach to how she tackles her stories. In the case of like You're Never Really Here, there's kind of a startling nature to that filmmaking, which leads to both great substance and great depictions or great illustrations of ideas. And what we get here is some of that, some intriguing visualizations and two capable performances at the center of it. I think Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson do capable work here. I wouldn't say that they do outstanding work, but enough to keep your interest. And I do think that the illustrations, even though as we get to the other side of that coin, I do believe them to be quite simplistic, if exaggerative. It does make the point of the absurdity known, and it does highlight the attacking of its subject, and not to keep it to where it feels just odd or just kind of out of place. It feels appropriate, and it feels as if it is well integrated into that narrative itself. But when we get into the actual filmmaking itself, talking about the examination of what essentially is a character study, upon early stages of motherhood and ultimately the effects that it takes on this character, there's something quite disappointing in its frank nature, because in my view anyway, I felt it was more interested in flaunting its aesthetics and its absurdities, because a lot of its time there's things that happen within the frame that would be that would take up the point of absurdity. There's a point where you see a lot of times, Jennifer Lawrence's character crawling around, on all fours, and Robert Pattinson at one point does the same. And it's meant to highlight this primal nature of Jennifer Lawrence's character and what she is ultimately being deprived of and what she seeks that of the most in the recent, in the now. And for that, you get something that is a bit, again, a bit on the nose and a bit too simplistic for my taste. And a lot of its time, it is just wanting to be in that sphere, just showing you, things like there's a point where Jennifer Lawrence is holding a pen on a notepad or a notebook, and it's like she's trying to balance it out, and it's very frank about emotional imbalance. She's trying to maintain some order. She has curiosities about an older person in the picture, which is Rob Pattinson's character's father, who at some point in the film passes away. I think it was like actually at some very almost at the beginning of the film. It's not a big spoiler. It's just something that happens naturally. And she finds a relationship with that because of how he feels in the present moment and how she's feeling emotionally. There's some bondage that's happening there, but again, quite frank in its overall illustrations. There's just something very, very straightforward about the filmmaking that I don't believe it was its intention. And I wish as though that it was more than the sum of its parts, but unfortunately it is, because it circles around the knowledge of what we already know, and what has already been examined and expressed, and is more or less a showcase for these performers, and less so of what the filmmaking itself is ultimately trying to be. So I think it's a case of just more style than substance, but in the examination of Lynne Ramsay's career, I don't believe that to have been a point within her filmmaking. For it now to be that point is, like I said up top, rather disappointing than anything else. So those are my thoughts on Die My Love. I thought it was okay. If I were to compare it to any of her work, I actually would bear a lot of resemblance to We Need to Talk About Kevin, which kind of tackles very similar ideas about motherhood and ultimately the bond, the relationship to that lifestyle, and if that makes sense for that character. I'd also kind of give maybe it's just because it was the most recent thing I saw, but it kind of also reminded me of some ways of Begonia this year, with the thematic ideas on its mind, which the lack of fulfillment and that longing for specific desires or purposes. It kind of tackles similar ideas, but this is more narrow in its overall illustrations, and fairly shallow in its overall execution, in my opinion. But you guys, what are your thoughts on Die My Love? If you guys checked it out, or if you plan on seeing it, didn't really resonate with audiences, it didn't really do much of anything. But if you guys are curious to check it out, or if you have seen it, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Your guys' thoughts on Lynne Ramsay as a filmmaker, your favorite films from hers. Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.